Hello, welcome to Revelator Alpha. Hope you're all well. So, thank you for joining tonight. So, let me just take those off. I don't need those. Yeah, it is a live show. It's a live video broadcast podcast show, and we're going to be talking all biker related stuff. Might be a bit of a poor signal right now. I'm doing this in the evening. It seems to be working a lot better during the day when not so many people are online, unfortunately. So do apologize for the picture quality, but let me know if you can hear me at least. That'll be the best thing, and I'm sure within time the picture quality will improve somewhat. Anyway, so I want to kind of go through a couple of news items first of all. I am in the process of developing this live show into a more something where you get more images and more graphics, let's say. But it's all going to be in slow time. I'm really busy at the moment. Mark Kramer, I can hear you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good evening. No problem. Good pick. Okay, great. You're all seeing it. I've got a little indication on my screen saying there's a problem with the signal, but no. Great that you can see me. Listen, so we're going to be digging into, I don't know, people these days, whether you're on a bike, whether you're in a car, whether you're just in a shop, the entitlement that people feel, or the comments that people make, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be digging into that, and I'm going to ask you this one key question. One key question. This is for later, right? One key question. Are people within the motorcycle world, the motorcycle community, are we the only sane ones left? Has everybody else just lost the plot, or are we the only sane ones left? So I'm going to be talking about that. But before I do that, just to let you know that you can support the channel with all the good stuff just by super chats and super stickers and all that kind of stuff. After the video, you can leave comments and leave super thanks as well. That's all much appreciated. You can go to the website and look at the merchandise if you're into that. Also, there's a donate via PayPal. It just keeps the wheels turning. So anyway, enough of that. I don't want to keep on harping on about that. But tonight's show is, first of all, I'm going to talk about the latest news. And I mentioned this the other day when I was talking about Kawasaki, actually. And if we look at, again, another motorcycle, get that, there we go. If you can see this here, visor down from the UK here. Kawasaki to launch the KLR 650 Dual Sport, 650S Dual Sport in the US. Now, a lot of people were asking, I was asking as well, would this bike ever come over to the UK or to Europe? And I'm not 100% sure what the future will hold, but I think a lot of it is to do with being compliant. Let's just see which it was. The KLR 650 by no means the only Kawasaki model to make use of the 650 engine, but it's the only one in which exploits the potential off-road. And the 650, has been around in various different guises for many different years. Since emissions regulations began to tighten in Europe, Kawasaki stopped imports of the dual sport motorcycle, although in the US has been almost ever present. Even up until the launch of the new model in 2021. For 2023, the KLR 650 gains an S at the end of its name. The S will seemingly also be available only in the US and is mostly a lowering kit for the KLR 650. Yeah, because they are quite tall, and lots of people who are shorter legs, let's say, find them a little bit top heavy. In the US, ABS is still optional, which means there are two versions of the KLR 650R. KLR 650S, one with ABS, one without. With ABS, dry weight is 209 kilos, still a hefty bike. Without is reduced to 207 kilos. Okay, whoopie doo, 2 kilos there. But with 23.1 litre fuel tank, there's also plenty of scope to increase that as well. Okay, I was hoping that the 650 here, I was actually sorry, wrong screen. I was hoping that the KLR 650 was going to be reignited, let's say, redeveloped, and maybe coming out with a Euro 5 compliant engine as well. I've got a feeling it is. I think they're just not selling it over here. I mean, I could be wrong. If you know more about the 650 KLR 650S than I do, let us know. But I thought this engine they were using was Euro 5 compliant, so it could be sold in Europe. It's just they're not choosing to. Now, whether they see there's too much of a mid-range competition from the likes of, I don't know, BMW, KTM, let's say, in that mid-range bike, I don't know. But anyway, listen, I thought I'd bring that to you because, let's say, I've been waiting to see this for a long time, really, and it's been muted about for a long time. This KLR 650, and now the S, this new version, I should say, for next year, and it doesn't look as if there's much to it apart from it's just being lowered. So it's it's not a great deal of difference there. Anyway, so the other, let me just come back here. The other, if I can. There we go. Right. The other story, for those of you who are a bit long in the tooth, you might know this name here. This is Zundap. Zundap, it used to be German. I think they're East German motorcycle company. Let me just bring this up here again from Visor Down. Just bigging up Visor Down and motorcycle news the last few days. I don't know why, but there we go. But basically, defunct manufacturer Zundap is back in German hands and producing motorcycles with the launch of the Zundap ZXA 500, its first model since 1984. So basically, this went under. I'm not sure where it went thereafter, but then obviously it's come back under German ownership. From BSA to Can-Am to Jawa, it appears reviving mothballed motorcycle brands is all the rage in the industry right now. And I've kind of talked about this in the last few days as well. And now we have another with a surprise. I'm not sure if it's a surprise per se, because we'd heard rumors about this as well. And somewhat curious, the reappearance of the German nameplate Zundap. Zundap used to make some weird bikes back in the day, I've got to say. If you ever Google them, you'll see, and they're kind of, I'm not saying they're kind of Ural-like, but they're, if you can imagine, a little bit a cross between Ural single motorcycle, Dnepras, and a bit like BMWs. They were a mishmash of everything, I thought, anyway. And I think a lot of that kind of styling from BMW obviously went over to Russia in terms of Ural and everything like that, and Ukraine with the Dnepras as well. But I've got, I think the Zundap as well. But look, they come out with a brand new bike now. This is a mid-range ADV. These are the bikes of the adventurist for me, for the future. If you want something that's relatively smaller, I would say. Certainly going to have enough power. I'm a great believer, 500, 600, 700cc. If you want an adventure bike that you can still hit the roads on, but do some substantial off-road, in the adventure sense, in inverted commas, I think this is the size. And if you look a lot of the Japanese, the Chinese manufacturers, they're starting to produce a lot of these mid-range bikes. It's no surprise that the well-established brands have also got this level bike, and they are quite big sellers as well. I think the level is starting to even match or overtake the big ADVs as well. But listen, it's a fairly generic looking. It says here, low capacity ADV boasting more than a hint of Ducati Multistrada. Yeah, okay. I suppose in colors, I suppose it is a little bit like that. But I think a lot of bikes, just like a lot of cars, tend to look like each other. I mean, how many more different styles can you get, I suppose? But this ZXA 500 features an A2 license friendly, so you don't have to have a full license with it here in the UK. 476cc, 48 brake horsepower engine, 18-litre fuel tank, weighs less than 200 kilos. So I think this is, obviously it's going to be full of plastics as well, of course, on this bike. It's targeted squarely at the Benelli TRK 502. Yeah, as I said, Benelli, Italian brand originally, but obviously it's Chinese now. Honda CBX 500, yet again. While the origins of the Zundap and ZXA 500 aren't entirely clear, the telltale anomalous 530 TT branding on the side leads us to presume it is a badge-engineered version of the Chinese-built 530 TT. I would not be surprised if Zundap here are whilst German owned, they are what I would class as a European or a British design house. In other words, they design the bikes. They might manufacture odd little parts. They may even assemble some of the parts in the country, European country, but actually virtually everything is sourced from China. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not trying to cast any aspersions, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is indeed the case. Right, let's took in a bit of comments. Paul, good evening. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Anyway, so that was Zundap. You know, interesting there from them. Honda, there's another one here. The Transalp. The Transalp has been muted again. The XL750 Transalp from Honda. Again, I think this will be. Oops, sorry, I don't know what that is. This will be another big seller, I think, from Honda. Transalp back in the day had a big following. What I'm talking about, you know, in I suppose mid 80s, I suppose Transalp, the first one came out. If you know, let us know for sure. I'm talking about Europe here, but I think the maybe 83, 84. Maybe that's being a bit generous. Maybe about 85, 86. But I certainly remember the Transalp when it first came on, and we, you know, lots of people were thinking, "Wow, this is a decent bike. We love that bike." Riding around, and as young kids growing up, you know, sort of 16, 17, thought, wow, that's a cool bike, especially from the background what I had. Being sort of farming background and also doing a lot of off-road riding, a lot of scrambling, a lot of motocross, that kind of stuff. You know, these kind of road bikes that were off-road capable, and this was definitely off-road capable back in the day. So the Transalp, yeah, this could be something to watch out for. You know, the Honda CB750 just came out with the Honda 750. Sorry, Honda just came out with the CB750 Hornet, and this will be the Honda XL750 Transalp. There's going to be a lot of crossover between the CB750 Hornet and the Transalp, of course, you know, engine wise and everything like that. But look, yeah, it's going to have more similarities between the two include headlight, tailpipe, motociclismo, and motociclismo anticipates that the similarities in chassis and engine will also result in the transfer of the electronics from the Hornet to the Transalp. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, potentially including the TFT display and smartphone connectivity. This is, you know, engine, frame, you know, and maybe some electronics will be similar. I'm sure that the tuning would be different, maybe different mappings, maybe for a little off-road type map or an adventure style map as well. I wouldn't be surprised. But that's, as I say, that's the Transalp there. I mean, there are some other stories that came through. This is motorcycle news here. They've just gone with the Horex new VR6 version, which I mentioned the other day. They've got the undress to Empress. BMW reveals the ballistic 200 brake horsepower plus M1000R naked with winglets and superbike tech. I mean, you know, 200 brake horsepower. My goodness, what is going on here? And then the carbon clad corner carver, BMW ready for the 2023 WSB season with the latest M1000RR draped in aero upgrades. I mean, look, aerodynamics is a massive thing, and that's part of my world, as it were, my day world, aerodynamics. And you notice this more and more with bikes, especially high performance bikes, sports bikes, you know, really paying attention to aerodynamics, downforce, yes, wings, as it were. You know, so there's a lot of that going on these days. But anyway, listen, this is I wanted to bring you a little bit of a news item. Let me just stop showing that. I wanted to bring you a bit of a news item of what the latest things. I mean, that's going to be part of these video podcast live streams. Is just to talk about what the latest stuff is, and hopefully, you know, you'll get some benefit out of that, or it encourage you to go and look at these websites, or, you know, dig a little bit deeper yourself. I think it's always good to find out what great bikes are out there, or what all the manufacturers are doing these days. So I'm going to do a little bit more of that on the channel. But anyway, so tonight's big topic, the big topic for tonight is are are people in general entitled? Are they? Are they entitled? Are they? Is it too much? I'm talking about everybody in society, but even from within the motorcycle community, even bikers, let's say, are they? Has it changed? Or is this just some kind of media fueled impression that everybody's getting? But I suppose in many ways, if you ask me, if you ask me honestly, and I've said this for a long, long time, is that I think a lot of this is down to social media. I think a lot of this is down to, keyboard warriors. This is a lot of people feel emblazoned or emboldened, I should say, emboldened to say whatever they want, do whatever they want in many ways. There's a lack of accountability. There's a lack of consequence or the fear of consequence. And you could just go on and on and on and say, like a moaning old man, yeah, the youth of today and all that sort of stuff. But it isn't, because it isn't just the youth. Actually, it's all ages, all age groups, men, women, kids, teenagers, young adults, old people. There's a lot of old traditional values or old traditional ways of doing things or acting in public, certainly, that people seem to have either lost, dismissed, or I'm painting a grim picture here because I know not everybody's like this, of course, but there does seem to be a little bit. Now, those of us who do online content, let's say, whether you're on the social media platforms and you put yourself out there, or whether you're doing something physical, visual, I should say, like this, you kind of put yourself out there, and you kind of putting yourself up to be, shot down, really, shot down in flames, or in criticism or whatever. Sometimes you just can't do something right for no matter what you do. And that's just the way of the world. We kind of accept that. We kind of see it. It doesn't make it nice. You kind of get annoyed by it. And I was watching not that I watch TikTok, but my partner watches TikTok, right? And she was just showing me this one clip of a lady who does a lot of cooking, would you believe? She does a lot. My partner watches a lot of TikTok cooking things, right? So this one lady, all she does seem like a very, very nice lady, right? Young lady, just sharing cooking recipes. Where's the harm in that, you would imagine? Where is the harm in somebody sharing cooking recipes? But oh no, she gets trolled. She gets, threatened. Threatened, would you believe? Threatened, just for the kind of things that she cooks or the kind of things that she eats. And it's just like, has the world gone mad? Now, basically, what the point I'm trying to make is that she's got so fed up with it that she's not going to stop making her content, but she's just going to stop answering people and connecting people and speaking to people. And one of the reasons why I want to do these live shows more and more is to connect more, and it is to talk directly to people, and to have, and to answer some comments in a kind of live way of doing it. And also, hopefully, in the future, if I keep on doing this, then invite people to come on and have a one-to-one chat or a group discussion about certain things, motorcycle related and all that sort of stuff. But if we expand this out, let's just say my audience is a motorcycle audience, right, for the most part, then you would be surprised the kind of stuff that people come out with. And you think, and it's always the same, isn't it? They will never say this to your face, but if they did, they will probably be ready for a bit of a row. Most people would never say this to your face, or if they did say it to your face, they'd be a lot more courteous. And that's the difference. Okay, so people hide behind, the keyboard, let's say, and they say it, but also people are now starting to go up to complete strangers, go up to people in shots, and they're finding it. John, yes, blurry. I think there's a problem with my internet connection. Unfortunately, in the evening, it goes like this, but hopefully you can still hear me. At my end, it's very, very clear, I can assure you, but it possibly is very, very quiet. I think it says here the connection is unstable. If you're on Wi-Fi, try it. Well, I'm not on Wi-Fi. I'm actually plugged in here direct to the router, but it's still, I think the whole area goes down in the evening to its bare minimum. But there we go. Listen, so I think there's been a change. There's been a change over years. I've noticed it. I think I'm more in tune to it than maybe a lot of other people. It's because I'm on here. I'm on a platform like here, like YouTube, and I see it, and I see not only my channel, but I look at lots of different channels, and I see the sort of comments that they get, and the kind of problems that these people have with people are making stupid comments a lot of the time. And probably in people's minds, they think, "Oh, I'm just stating my opinion, or I'm gonna, I'm gonna tell them what I really think." Most of the time, if you're gonna make a negative comment in any way, people switch off. So I'll tell you that right now. If people make negative comments about you or about the work that you make, then you're gonna switch off. You won't get a reaction out of people. Most people start to try and answer those questions or those comments, but in the end they give up. And that's the kind of, I could identify with this girl who was on TikTok, this lady who's on TikTok, who said, I'm not going to get into the comments anymore, because it's just the way that, it's just an odd one, isn't it? It's just an odd one where people think they can say whatever they want to say. And you think, oh, do you know what? It's not us. It's not within the motorcycle community. It's, the global motorcycle community. It's the people on the outside. But I don't think it is. I think people within the motorcycle community I always thought were probably a bit more level-headed for the most part. I'm generalizing, of course. I'm generalizing here. But for the most part, you think, well, people, us bikers, we tend to see things, maybe in a different way. But then you read some of the things that people say or the way people act, and you think, wow, really? Really? Now, again, if I go in person somewhere, physically go to an event like a motorcycle rally, I very rarely see people acting like arseholes. Very rarely. Very rarely. I mean, yeah, there's banter, of course there is. There's people having fun. There's all that kind of stuff. But very rarely are people, acting arseholes or acting arseholes to complete strangers. They might be acting arseholes to people they know because it's part of banter, right? But, they're not acting, they're not playing up to be very rare, very, very rare, I would say. Of course, I'm sure it does happen, but very rare. But get people behind a computer or whatever, and people have forgotten the art of just switching off. I can see here a few people have come on, then they switch off, then they go off and do something else. That's absolutely fine, because probably they're not really interested in watching this kind of content right now. But this is something that I notice all the time, that people will watch something and feel they have to make a negative comment. I'm not talking about my channel here in particular. I'm talking about people in general. Or they offer you their help or their solutions to something, but they don't really necessarily see what you're seeing. And it's all very well seeing something from the outside in, but it might not be the right way to do it. Then people might get offended if you're not agreeing with what they're telling you to do. It's a very, very difficult way, river to navigate, as it were. This not only acting in society, but also, doing this online thing. Because all of a sudden, you're no matter what you do, it can be seen in a good way, or it can be seen in a bad way. And I say, luckily, I think that within the motorcycle content that I produce and the kind of people that watch my content or kind of watch the videos, let's say, not necessarily watching the live shows, all that kind of stuff. I think for the most part, most people are very level-headed. And in fact, I have noticed, on quite a few occasions that you will get a troll on your channel, whatever, but other people will kind of, step in and tell the troll to, sod off. They'll start doing a bit of background research on this. Who's made this stupid comment? Right, let me look at him. Oh God, you've only got, you only just joined, or you've only got 2 subscribers, or whatever, something like that. So people do rally round, and they identify, they do understand when somebody else is being an arsehole, and they're kind of saying, hey, hold on a minute, there's no need to be like that. And I hope there's more and more people within at least society, but within at least the motorcycle community. But it would be foolhardy, I think, to think that, hey, every bike is made of gold, or has got a heart of gold, or is a stand-up guy, because it isn't. It isn't like that. But I think possibly there's more within the world, the biking world, possibly. But I wonder if this is just an old man talking. Wonder whether this is just an older generation thinking, where you still have hope that people do the right thing. And I wonder what the next generation is going to be like. Whether they're even going to be engaged or anything like this. Whether they're going to be so disillusioned, so disconnected from everybody, because they're just hiding in their IT, that they don't even connect or know how to talk to people properly. It'd be interesting one. It'd be interesting one to see what happens. But I do wonder if people watching content, or not even watching content, forget about the YouTube thing, forget about social media, if people going out in society and they feel that they can go to a restaurant or go into a bar, and they feel that their service hasn't been up to whatever standard they think it should be, or they feel that they've been hard done by, they feel they've been overcharged or whatever, all of a sudden they think that gives them the right to be just rude or mean or even physical and violent. And this happens all the time. Yes, you could argue, I suppose, a lot of this could be alcohol or drug fueled, possibly in some cases. It could be that people just get carried away, and in the cold light of day, they think, well, yeah, possibly that's not a good thing to do. But it's you do hear about these stories of people going into restaurants and just not necessarily becoming violent, but just getting really arsey with people who work there. Let's face it, people are only working there. They're just working there. They're doing whatever they can. It's a job. They're not purposely trying to, give you bad service, but it's just a job. They're doing what they're told by their bosses, let's say. So you're taking it out on people who don't really have a vested interest. They're just doing their best thing. Now, you could argue, well, they should have a vested interest. They should be doing better. But again, that's no need for you to be abusive, or you to think that in some way they're kind of a second-class citizen. Now, you could argue that since Brexit in this country, and because of the COVID, and because of the global situation, that the kind of service or the value for money you're getting when you go out to bars and restaurants, well, I think I don't think it's as good as it used to be. That's for sure. I think it's got really expensive for mediocre service, possibly mediocre food. Definitely, I think that's the impression I get. But that doesn't mean that I go to somewhere and start bitching and moaning or complaining left, right, and center, or certainly abusing any stuff. But people do. People think because the barrier used to be in recent years, people are sitting behind a wall, a barrier, like an online barrier, let's say, your computer, you're miles away, tapping away, going, or on your phone going, yeah, you suck. But now people are going up to a counter, which they still think is a physical barrier, and they think, well, you're working there, and I'm going to give you what for. And I have seen it in motorcycle events as well. I'm not saying I haven't seen it, but it's not that common. But I have seen, I wouldn't say I see it on a daily basis. That would be exaggerating, of course. But there are lots of people who feel the need to put their point across in a forthright way, and you think, well, why? Why are you like that? I don't think the solution is within us. I don't think the solution is within the older age group. I think the solution is the next generation, the younger kids. Hopefully, they can see the error of our ways, or the people who are making stupid mistakes or acting like ourselves. And I get this from younger people from time to time. You overhear what they say, like my son and his friends or whatever, and you think, you know what, you've got a good view of the world there. You kind of, you can spot when somebody's being a right arsehole, or you can spot when somebody's being, you know, just mean or rude, or unnecessarily violent and all this sort of stuff. You can spot it. You can, or they can spot it, and you wonder, will they carry that on? Will they see that into adulthood? Will they see that, will others of the same age? Will the children right the wrongs of the parents, let's say, or the parents' generation, without taking it way too far and being completely woke and PC mad and all that sort of stuff? Paul, here we go. Let's have a look. I haven't read it, but I'll read it now. As there is no need for bad comments or being down right rude. You might not agree or like what you have seen, but if I don't like something, I just don't leave a comment. I'm exactly the same, Paul. Exactly the same. If I don't like something, I stop watching, or I stop listening, or whatever it is. And if I don't particularly like what somebody said, I just ignore it. I just move on. I don't really feel compelled to write something negative. Now, occasionally, yeah, of course, I feel compelled to write something. Oh, cracker, what's that? My phone is doing something weird. I don't know what that is. Not my phone, my watch, which is not linked to my phone. I bet you that's gonna. Sorry, there we go. God, these modern. Whatever happened just to wind up watches? It was simple then. Back in the day, it was simple. Now look, covered in these electronics, and nothing ever works. But there we go. I forgot what I was saying. But whatever it was, I'm sure it wasn't anything important. But look, yeah, Paul, I will always leave a good comment for good content, which I've enjoyed watching. Yeah, look, I'm the same. Yeah, I make comments. I'll either be encouraging or enthusiastic, or something I've seen that has surprised me at how good it is. It's good. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. One of the kinds of videos that I enjoy watching, I'm not necessarily saying they're the kind of videos I enjoy watching the most, but I enjoy watching them, are kind of solution videos where they design a new tool, or out of something, out of some everyday item, because I enjoy watching those, because I've made a few of those videos, or I'm always looking for little solutions that I think up of as well. So I always enjoy watching those videos, and every now and again I'll leave a little comment. I don't expect anything in return, but I kind of think, oh, okay, it's worthy of a comment. It's worthy of well done. I sometimes I leave it on big channels, very rarely or sometimes on smaller channels. I definitely look at smaller channels from time to time and seeing what they're producing. I've got to say though, and I've said this time and time again, I don't tend to watch a lot of other motorcycle content that much, and there's a very good reason for that. And you might find it a bit strange, but one of the reasons I don't watch, I'm aware of other motorcycle content, let's put it that way. And I may watch just little snippets here and there just to get the general vibe of what's going on. But I don't tend to watch a lot of it. And the reason is because I don't want to be influenced by what any other motorcycle channel is doing. It's your very fine line between how you're being influenced. And it's very easy to what's the word I'm looking for? Unconsciously, subconsciously, involuntarily copying somebody else, or then being accused of taking somebody else's ideas. So I tend to not watch a lot of motorcycle content, I gotta say, but I am aware of it. I am aware. When I say I am aware of lots of the motorcycle channels and what they do and how they do it, but I don't tend to watch too much because I don't want to copy it, But But there we go. Look, John, are you enjoying your day shift at your previous life? Yes, I am. It's actually incredibly busy at the moment. There's lots of stuff going on. Maybe one day I'll discuss what I do, and what I tend not to want to talk about my day job or my professional life because I want to keep there's a definite separation. There's separation between what I do professionally and what I do here, or what I do, with my website and everything like that. So I try maybe to give a little snippet here and there every now and again, but very rarely. But it's very busy at the moment. There's lots going on. There's lots of changes and lots of things that we're trying to do as a very small group of people now, and it's it's very challenging, but I'm hoping soon we'll be over the hump, as it were, and ready to go on. I do watch a lot of motorcycle content. Look, you're probably in a much better position to comment on the different channels and if they are similar to each other or whatever. I do know this. I do know this on what I've seen. What I've seen is that that if a new motorcycle comes out and motorcycle channel reviewers review that, they, for the most part, a lot of them do tend to have a similar kind of style, or they say the same kinds of things, or they're kind of complimentary. And I'm not saying they should never be uncomplimentary, or is that the word? Well, you know what I mean. But there is a kind of collective opinion of these things sometimes, and I always say it's very hard to be independent. If you watch all my videos or live streams from the past when I talked about this extensively, I think it's very hard to be completely independent of thought, of opinion, of a review, of a first impression, when you're tied into a manufacturer that is giving you a bike to review, or a dealership that is enabling you to use their bike. It's very rare that like a dealership's going to say to you, "Hey, come and review our bike." You can say whatever you want to say about it. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it could affect their business as well. So you're kind of in that world of having to please the viewer, us, the viewer, but also having to please the people who are giving you the bikes as well. Because there's a very fine line between you being an independent YouTuber, let's say, or being just the mouthpiece of a dealership or a manufacturer or whatever. So it's as I say, I'm not saying that they bend over, and just say all good things. I'm not saying that, but do you know what I mean? It's kind of a dulled down. And I don't blame YouTubers for it whatsoever. This is not a criticism; it's an observation. And if I was doing them, I've always approached them where, first of all, I'm legitimately trying these bikes out because I want to see if they're suitable for me. But if a manufacturer or dealership approaches me, or we could, we'd start a discussion, say I'll review some of their bikes or ride some of their bikes, it would be under the strict agreement that I will be completely independent. If I don't like a bike, I won't like it. Or if I do like a bike, or whatever. So it's a very fine line. I say I do want to get back into riding more bikes or reviewing more bikes, and not necessarily because I just want to get into bike reviews. It's more about I've always enjoyed riding different bikes, and I've said this in the past as well. For the most part, I think I'd be a pretty poor motorcycle reviewer, because I'd always be too positive. I know. People who accuse me of being negative all the time, but I think when it comes to motorcycles and just riding them, I have great fun, great joy in riding virtually any bike. I'd be hard pushed to come to you and say this bike is terrible. The only reason I would say something the bike is really terrible if it's dangerous. If there's something on it that I think it's going this bike will kill you, then fine, I'll probably say something like that. I would say don't buy this bike because it's terrible. But for the most part, when I ride any bike, an old bike, new bike, small bike, moped, mid-size, custom bike that I'm trying to build, or whatever, or a new bike, Harley, whatever, the chances are I'm going to get on it and I'm going to love it. I'm going to or love the experience of it. Now, again, if you want a proper review of a bike, I've gone off on a weird tangent here, but I suppose it's tied into what people have comments about, and when people have comments about bad reviews or good reviews. But I've always said this: if you want to have a really good review of a bike, you've got to own a bike or ride a bike for 6 months or a year, I think. Then you can say, okay, this is a year review of a bike, whatever. Or if you really want to find out what a bike is like, go to a dealership yourself and find out for yourself. But I think if you want to get a first impression, come to places like YouTube and see people ride them and give you their first impressions. But as I say, it's a very fine line between getting it right or getting an honest opinion, and I think that's the thing. It's getting an honest opinion. There you go, Paul. Yeah, you find the new models come out, you get a lot of the same thing from one vlogger to another. I think I've said this in the past, what really annoys me is when manufacturers like Harley Davidson, but Indian do it, and Triumph definitely do it, and I'm sure the others do it as well, to a greater or lesser degree. But they'll get the popular YouTubers of the time, or TikTokers or Instagrammers, right? And they all take them to a place and they feed them and they give them freebies, let's say, or they get them to ride the bikes and they go on these guided rides and everything like that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But and they come out and say this is a completely independent review. I'm not biased in any way. Not all of them, but some of them have done this in the past. I'm talking about. They may have changed their tune a little bit because they might have been getting a bit of heat from people like me, let's say. But then, but the point is that their reviews all become the same, or that they're trying to, be not piss off the hands that feeds them, not bite the hands that feed them. I mean, let's face it. And you can't tell me you're going to go to a place like this and be wined and dined, let's say, in inverted commas, have expenses paid, whatever, to get there, and then all of a sudden you're not going to give a positive review. It takes a very brave person to do that, but also a person who probably acknowledges that they'll never ever be able to do a review again. It's just the way it is, and bear this in mind. I was watching Casey Neistat the other day, and he kind of made a very brief remark about something. It might have been one of his newer videos he's just made, or one of his older videos, but he's basically saying that the reason the manufacturer or whatever want to use him, in the past this was, or they wanted to sponsor a video, let's say, or send him a product, let's say, it had nothing to do with if they liked him or if they liked his content or his style of content. All it was is they wanted access to his audience, to his reach, and that's what it is. So if he's got 10 million, 12 million, 30 million viewers, let's say, whatever it is, followers, subscribers, that's what they want. They want that market. It's got nothing to do with, and it's a business relationship, and it's a relationship between that and that. And the reason why they get YouTubers in, or TikTokers or whatever it is, to come in, because they want that reach, they want that audience, and they want their product to be given a good message, or be shown in a good light to the audience, you see. And that's the way it works. So if you play the game, you'll be invited back for more and more. If you don't play the game, you won't be invited. They lose out on your audience, which is no big deal for them, because they can go to the next person. You see, that's the way it is. I like watching tours and seeing places you most probably don't get a chance to go to. Yeah, for example, watch Mexico, Alaska, Yukon, Ireland. I do. I do. There was this is before, or I wasn't watching YouTube at the time. This is many years ago. I was watching, but I think I was watching. It was a YouTube, or maybe it was some random websites that I was finding where people were just posting videos, or other platforms, old platforms of like blogging platforms. They were just posting quick videos of their tours or their adventures going around. People sometimes think that, riding bikes and on adventures, let's say, whatever adventure you think is right. People think, oh, it's a modern thing. People just doing it for YouTube. No, people have been doing this for years and years. People have been going off and having adventures, taking photographs, or when videos started, taking quick videos. They're using cine cameras, the old cine cameras, cine 8s, that kind of thing. People are doing that. There we go. I love the one we did on the fat ball that tickled me. The review, yeah, that's it's goodbye. I'd have to ride it again. I think it was a bit. I felt it a bit weird. Or the front wheel was really fat. It's weird in its steering. But out of curiosity, what do you look for in a bike when you purchase one? For me, I like looks and classic. I do like. I was funny enough. You mentioned this, Sean. I was thinking about this very thing today. What do I like in a bike? And I kind of like. I suppose also I like Harley. And I like the BMWs, and I like the R18s type things, and I like Indian, and I like old school bikes, or bikes that look a little bit older, or they're made of something substantial, they're made of metal, that kind of thing. When I love my off-road bikes, I'm not so keen in terms of style or appearance of modern enduro motocross bikes. Give me something that's retro feeling, like a 1970s scrambler, like a twin shocker, that kind of thing, or a monoshock, but it's got that kind of 70s feel, early 80s feel. Certainly with any kind of bike, that's why I like adventure bikes, really, or any kind of off-road capable bike. It's not necessarily what they look, but it kind of represents my style in the way I like things, and I like utility things. I like things that are practical, pragmatic, that enable me to go and do stuff, and that's it. That's the kind of stuff I like. I used to be into sports bikes. I used to be into really fast bikes, but I'm not anymore. I've got to say, as a personal preference, yes. Do I enjoy riding them? Of course I do. Do I enjoy, going to, if let's say, Ducati said to me, right, Al, do you want to come ride this Panigale? I'd be right. Yes. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, I'll be there. Thanks very much. I will ride that Panigale for you and give you my opinion of it. Yes. And I'll probably scare myself silly, but no, of course, I want to ride a BMW M1000R, or a Fireblade, or a Ninja, or what, a GSX-R 1000. I want to ride them all, and I'd have great fun. But are you telling me, if you ask me the bike that I would want to buy myself? No, because it's not my style anymore. It's not my riding position. It's not necessarily that I'm an old man. I do like a certain upright riding position for a start. The warm comforts and gadgets. You know what, Paul? This morning I was very close to thinking, do you know what? I think I need to get my heated gloves out and wire in my heated harness again. I think that's what I'm going to be doing on my days off the next couple of days, because it's yesterday. Sorry, not this morning. I can't remember what the temperature was this morning, but yesterday it was 2 degrees here. So out on the road at 2 degrees in the morning. It's cold. I mean, this morning it was a little bit cold, warmer. When I left work, I think it was in the region of about 4 or 5 degrees. But even so, that's going cold. Yeah. Michael, hello. Maybe that's why I bought a 20-year-old VTX flow. Yeah. I like old bikes. There's no problem with that. I mean, I do. I love new bikes, of course. I love the technology. I love what they represent, the handling, the balance, and all that sort of stuff, the performance. I love all that aspect of it. I'm not so keen on the technicality of all these things and how you can work them or access them. And that's why it takes, they're not simple things to fix sometimes, and most of it is because it's electronic based. It's just, or you can't fix it on the side of the road, or whatever it is. Or the manufacturers make it very difficult for you to try and tinker with it on the side of the road. Now, I'm not saying that we would do that anyway, but it's that kind of feeling that it's unless you've got speciality training or speciality knowledge or the speciality tools, you're never going to be able to work on these things. So, you're tied into dealerships or mechanics prices, whatever. I always knew, and that's why I kind of like Harley Davidson. Not like them. I love Harley Davidson. I love my Harley Davidson as well, because I still feel, even though it's got modern tech on it, and I use that in inverted commas, of course, I still feel that it's a bike that, or any bike that you can get hands on with it if you really wanted to, or if you have the know-how, the capability, or in my case, if I had the time, because whilst I've made technical videos and I talk about stripping bikes down, and I've done engine rebuilds, and I've tried to show that more the last year as well. It is about time. So if something went wrong with my Harley, I would be looking at it and I think, do you know what? Oh, I've got this, I've got that to do. I've got work, I've got family life, I've got YouTube to do and everything. And I think, right, crikey, if something needs fixing, like the engine needs stripping down, or they need to change a cam or whatever, and I think, should I do it myself? Well, I could do it myself, but then I think time versus money, how much would it cost? I might just send it to somebody else to do and let them do it. It's just the way it is. For me, it's about time more than anything. Time is the greatest currency for me. I think as you get older, you kind of value that time more and more, don't you? But I think that's where I see it. I think it's probably the same for a lot of busy people. Is that time is the greatest currency or commodity that you can have. It's But anyway, listen. I mean, that's where I've kind of gone off on a massive tangent here, haven't I? But I'd say those are the kind of bikes that I do like. I do love those kinds of bikes that are bare bones, that they're basic, I suppose, that there's not necessarily air cooled. It's not that I'm an air cooled Harley V twin kind of guy, which I am, I suppose, but it's not necessarily that, because I like liquid cooled bikes as well. But just something that's relatively simple, nice and comfortable to ride, easy to ride. I feel that I could go short distances or long distances on it. I tend to like bikes that are a little bit, as I say, useful. I never thought I'd really want a useful bike or a practical bike until I got okay. I had a ZZR 1400, but I had these fabric panniers or saddlebags on there, because I felt even at that time I was always taking stuff with me and riding around and doing stuff, and I always thought, right. So when I got my adventure bike, my Triumph Explorer, I had all the boxes, the big aluminium boxes and that kind of thing. And I was just so surprised at how much stuff I would put in there on a daily basis. Now, in the end, I mostly just rode with the top box, and I took off the side panniers or side boxes, because they really stuck out. They're quite wide. But I was always filling stuff in there. If I was going on like a little shopping trip, I'd put those boxes right back on. So, because I just go somewhere, dump my helmet in the top box, lock it all up. They're all lockable boxes. I go off, do some whatever I wanted to do, buy stuff, come back in the boxes. So when I went for the Harley, I knew that I wanted something with, boxes, saddlebags, whatever you want to call it. I knew I wanted that. That's why I kind of looked at various bikes, but then I looked at the Harley and the Sport Glide, obviously, and I thought, well, that's the bike I want. That's the bike I rode, and I test rode quite a few Harleys at that time, and all within the Softails, I got to say, and it's the one that immediately I went, yeah, this is the bike for me. It was weird. It was a weird connection with it, and I still have it. I still have that weird. Yeah, this is a bike for me. It's an odd one, because I've had bikes all my life, but I can't honestly say that I've had that kind of connection with a bike. And I know people watch my channel, and I know people watch my channel, and you know, in the past, let's say, they think you're being negative, you're slating Harley Davidson. No, I was just expressing an opinion, or you know, trying to highlight a few issues that people were sending me. But I've decided to stop doing those kind of videos because one, you know, it gives a kind of false impression, I suppose, of the way I truly feel about a brand like Harley Davidson or Triumph, whatever. It's that, you know, I I I like what they do. I like what they produce. I just don't necessarily agree with everything, or I just don't like everything that they do. And this is all manufacturers, but I am a fan, and the reason I'm a fan is because guess what? I own one, and you know, whenever I highlight something, people would say, you know, you're being negative about this because you're highlighting a particular issue. They say, well, if you've got certain people or quite a few people out there, and I'd always say it's not my bike, it's not happening to me. You know, if they're having problems, then maybe there's something you want to look out for on your own bike. So if I've got that kind of knowledge in my head that actually somebody else has had a problem with their soft tail, guess what? I'm going to go and look at my bike straight away just to see if is a problem. And that's it. And that's the way I'd always look at those kinds of videos and say, actually, somebody's just giving you information here, or they may have a negative opinion, or they may be something, but it might be something worth just to keep in the old noddle there, just to keep in your bottom locker, just in case something does happen in the future. And guess what? Listen, when I talk about Harley Davidson as well, all the things that I talked about for the sort of 6 months, for a year, a few months back now, but all those videos that I made, guess what? A lot of those criticisms are real. They've been realized in what's been going on in the US with the government going after Harley Davidson. So hey, you know, but I don't dislike Harley Davidson. In fact, you know, I really like them as the bikes. And guess what? If I had to buy another bike, you know, I was thinking about this today. I would kind of look at Harley Davidson. Yeah, I would look at Indian. You know, my first thoughts are, I just not that keen on the styling of Indian bikes. I love the engine profiles, but you know, and I was thinking, should I go to the Indian dealership and have a little nose around? And I may do that, and I might take you along with me to, you know, to show you that. But you know, it's but I love Harley Davidsons and I love Triumphs and I love these bikes that I can see what they're made of, and I can see that yeah, they might have a bit of plastic on there, or there might be more metal, whatever. But all I am is that you know, I'm English, I'm British, I'm Italian, you know, I'm European. I'm not an American. I don't have a patriotic feeling towards Harley Davidson, you know, or Indian. You know, it's because I'm British. I'm not. You know, I won't have it. So I don't have. I'm not going to be, you know, your cheerleader for an American brand, because all I am a cheerleader of is a product that works, and if I have a connection with it, and I have a connection with a product that's made by that company. That's it. That's where it comes down to, you know. But I say you know, I don't try to be negative. In fact, most of the time, and this comes back to my thoughts on being a motorcycle reviewer. I still think I'd be one of the worst because I would always be overly positive. You know, my connection with bikes has always been that it's the ride. It's the ride that I'm most concerned with. I'm not concerned with the looks. I'm not concerned with the curb appeal. I'm not concerned with the sound or the any kind of lifestyle thing or groups or clubs or anything like that. You know, it's fine. That's great, but that's not my main concern. My main concern has always been me on that bike. How do I feel? How do I feel? Do I enjoy it? Do I enjoy it? Does it enable me to go and have fun? Does it enable me to get to where I want to get to? Then by extension, there's the other aspect of motorcycling, which I really like, which is not necessarily just attributed to motorcycling, but in general. But I love getting my hands dirty. So I love mechanical, electrical type of stuff. For any bike that I think, oh, you know, that's and I see it, and I look at that. And now some people are not that way inclined, but I just am. but my preference is to look and work on older bikes than newer bikes. Definitely. Not only because of the simplicity more, but also the thing I just like the way older things are done, the solutions for them. And I think sometimes on the newer bikes, they've just taken them too far. There's too many modes. There's too many rider aids. They've overdone it. Whilst they're brilliant in what they do, the how they make the ride, how smooth, how much planted the bikes are compared to the older bikes. There is definitely a feeling, I suppose, from a lot of people like me, maybe, I don't know, but it's less of an engaging bare bones riding experience these days compared to even just a few years ago. There's a difference there, but I say I like the aspect of riding the bike, but I also like the aspect of, well, I wouldn't say necessarily fixing or breaking down engines, but I like the notion that I can work on them, in my workshop if I have to. There we go. Paint and Rise. Hi, Elf and House people. Well, not my people, they're our people. I'd like to buy a Harley, but I just can't in good conscience support the company. And I am an American. See, there is a lot of. It's interesting that you say that, right? Somebody made a comment the other day, and I forgot what it was. In total, but they were basically saying, I'm never going to buy a Harley Davidson again, and I don't think and Indian either. They're never going to buy a Harley Davidson or Indian again, because one, they're just not American anymore. They're just not. They're not made in America, and again, I've made all these videos before and everything, because there are people out there who think along the same lines. And everybody's entitled to their opinion and their reasons for not wanting it. I mean, I don't see it like that, so I don't necessarily mind if a bike is not made in America, but I want that product to be made properly. So that's the difference. I just want it to be made properly from wherever it's made. But so I see that. I see where, but some people are just I suppose in recent years there's been a growing anger towards Harley Davidson and companies like that. And then maybe you could say the same for BMW, Ducati, Triumph in certain regards, because it's not just those companies, the products they're selling or the prices at which they're selling them for. It's actually the disconnect between the prices of these things, the cost of these things, and what people can afford. And I've always tried to make pains about this or illustrate this in my videos and in live shows as well. When I talk about, it's all well and good trying to sell a £30,000 bike, but since when was motorcycling about £30,000, £40,000 motorcycle? What about the common person? What about, can they afford these things? That kind of stuff. Great, great bikes, great engineering, and anything that you can level at them. I'm not saying that they're not worth the ride, but what I'm saying is that can people afford it? And that's a difference. But anyway, listen, there we go. So, sorry, pen and writing. So getting here. My feelings towards HE have nothing to do with where they are or their parts are made. Oh, okay. What is it then? What is the reason that, if you don't mind me asking, what is it? But John, I've made a good point. Thank you. Like saying where everything is made anymore. Yeah, I mean, I think on that particular point, products are made wherever, the source parts are. I think there's a couple of things what's happened here in Europe, definitely since COVID, but definitely since this energy crisis and Russia and Ukraine and everything, that it's kind of created this I think I talked about it the other day. It's kind of talked about this. It's created this nationalism now in each country. In that, I'm not necessarily saying that all the countries are starting to become fascist or anything like that. No, what I'm talking about, well, there is an element of that. There has definitely been a rise of right-wing thinking over the last few years, but I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that more and more the countries are acknowledging the need that they have to be self-reliant, that they have to produce their own products, that they have to, produce their own components, and whatever. It's all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of that, and you kind of think this about manufacturing. Is there room to manufacture something in your own country? And yeah, there is at a certain level, but at other levels it's just too expensive, because what would happen is the things are just so expensive to manufacture something in this country or around Europe, let's say. It's so expensive that people just won't buy it. They'll always go for that cheaper alternative, won't they? And that's the problem. The problem is, it's but there we go. Let's have a look here. I won't buy Harley Davidson due to the company's business practice. I moved away from HD in 2014. Well, yeah, again, I mean, yeah. All I can say is that you're not alone in your thinking. You're not alone in your thinking. There's lots of people who have negative opinions of them for various different reasons, and I get that. I get that, and I get why some people feel that about other companies as well. I get it. All I'm saying is that I don't feel that reason for any company, because as far as I'm concerned, I look at their product, and if it's their product that I like and that it's worked well for me, then I'll want. In my case, this is Harley Davidson Sport Glide. I'll keep it. I'll keep it unless there's something were to happen. I think, do you know what, I could look at another bike now. I have said in the past, maybe get a tourer type bike, maybe something a bit bigger, again with bags, saddle bags, all that sort of stuff. And I keep on coming back to it. I keep on coming back to that. Should I try and get another bike? Should I get one last bike, as it were? Would I get another bike? So I kind of think, do you know what? Maybe I should go look at some other bikes again. Maybe do a few test rides. And whether I put it on the channel or not, I don't know. But that wouldn't be the reason. The reason I've been seeing, could I see a bike that I would really consider buying to replace the Sport Glide? And again, I mean, right now, no way, because of the interest rates, inflation, the way things are going, and all that sort of stuff. But maybe in a year's time, when it all settles down, maybe get a used bike, that kind of thing. That's in really good condition. It's all interesting. Hello, Pan Ahmed. Hello, man. How are you? All right. Are you well? Thank you for joining. But anyway, listen, it's I started off talking about how people are entitled these days, and then the biker world has got the solution. I'm not sure. Judging by some of the comments tonight, I think we are safe. We can save the world. The biker world can save the world. Definitely. There's a lot of good reasoning here tonight. I would imagine. I wager. But just I think there's a lot to be. If we're talking about motorcycles and motorcycle companies, right? I think there's a lot to be concerned about right now, in that the way motorcycles are being produced, the cost of them, and everything like that. And I will say this time and time again, this is not against any particular company, but you've got to look at the competition and what they're producing and the price at which they're producing them. Now, you could talk about quality, and we could talk about materials used and all that, but I've got, and many people in my age have probably got, one new bike left in them, maybe, that kind of thing. Maybe after that they buy secondhand bikes, but a brand new bike, which is manufacturers and dealerships, that's what they're thriving on, right? It's new bike sales. Okay, probably got one more bike left in us. Okay, maybe a stretch two, right? So the market you need to really tap into is obviously middle-aged people and below, and young people, and that's what you want to tap into. But if you're producing bikes that are even 15, 20, 30, 40,000 pounds, People aren't buying those, or they won't be buying those bikes with any great gusto. You know, they'll look elsewhere. They'll look at other modes of transport, or they'll look at cheaper alternatives, and they'll look, they'll look at different ways to get mobile. And you know, it just stands to reason. So I think that any company that is blinkered in thinking that they can only produce really expensive bikes. I'm not talking about styles of bikes here at all. I'm talking about expensive bikes that most people can't afford. Then it stands to reason that their market share will gradually reduce. It will gradually reduce. Now, if there's a big upturn in the financial, you know, the economy, let's say, and people start earning loads of money and all that sort of stuff, yes, fine. You know, I'm sure people will start affording these things again. But, you know, it's a real risk. I'm not talking about Harley Davidson here in particular. There's all the big manufacturers producing bikes. They got massive competition against Chinese bikes from Indian bikes made in India. Yes, in your eyes and my eyes and other people's eyes, they may not have the same quality, but I tell you what, in terms of mobility, they're the ticket. They're the ticket. They're the ones that people are going to buy, or young people are going to buy them. And it's no surprise that more and more the press now, the industry press, are talking about Chinese bikes, Indian bikes, you know, the bikes that are cheaper, very capable, very similar characteristics. Yeah, they will do it. They will do it. Pan Am Ed, I just purchased a 22 Pan Am. Congratulations. They say there's a ton of electrical gremlins. I had a little issue a couple of weeks ago. No codes, worked itself up, but I knew it going into the purchase yet. They have, but I think, I think I reviewed that bike when it first came out. It was certainly arrived here in the UK, so I think it probably would have been a couple of months after it was first released in the United States. And I said, yeah, it's a great bike. I still think it's a really nice bike, really capable bike. But I made a series of videos, or certain videos, before it was released, and I kept on saying in those, if anybody's watched them, you probably can go back and watch them. But I was saying, look, it's a first year bike. You know, first couple of years, there's bound to be teething problems. There's bound to be issues with it. There's bound to be. So there have been. But on the whole, that hasn't been that bad at all. And whatever they have had, I think they had a problem with the screens, some of the TFT screens. I think they fixed those or recalled those. There's a few other gremlins and issues. I had a big adventure bike as a Triumph, and the sensors were always failing on me. They're always failing on me. So, you know, it's not a Harley Davidson issue. But I think that bike is good. I think you know, if I was after a big adventure bike, I would consider it. I wouldn't dismiss it at all. I would definitely consider it. Yeah, the bike is great. I'm glad you think so. Yeah, it's not, again, it's not me to decide whether a bike is great. It's you decide if you really like it. I really like that bike. I've got to say, you know, I suppose from my point of view, I was looking at a practical term of all my experience of, you know, challenging off-road environments, and where did I see there be a problem with it. And I suppose I could pick holes in any bike or any big adventure bike, but again, I refer back to other videos where I've made, where I say you can take any bike off-road to a certain point, right? And you know, it is what you like. We're all going to have our preferences, what we like. But I think, you know, I thought it rode great. Lots of power, oodles of power, especially in the sport mode on the road. Great bike. Awesome. Pan Am, yes. Paul, I didn't like the ride. It vibrated too much. Oh, really? Oh, interesting. You know, I can't remember the vibration. There being vibration. I could be wrong. I can't remember. It needs its updates, but I don't understand why the electronics can't be as good as in the manufacturers. That's about the only question I have for it. It's interesting you say that. It shouldn't be. Why isn't it as good? You would have thought, because Harley Davidson are quite the leading light in the electric bike world, that they would have the electronics down. I mean, that's the whole point of Livewire. The new company Livewire from Harley Davidson that's just been floating on the stock exchange in the US, that their electrical technology is going into the bikes, or they're going to retrofit a lot of the bikes or do the updates or whatever it is. But that's the whole point of Livewire, or certainly before it was developed into another company, was actually a lot of it was going to be some electrical and electronic support for main Harley Davidson, and I still believe that is the case, certainly for new bikes going forward as well. So yeah, it makes you wonder why that. But again, as I say, go back to any modern bike that's got lots of sensors on it, lots of electronics on it. It's a common thing. Unfortunately, it's a common thing for electronics to play up. And I said this, a big ADV Triumph that I had, definitely always had sensors failing. You'd lie the bike down, whatever, you pick it up, and there's another sensor gone, and it wouldn't clear. And then you'd have to take it in, and they'd hook it up to their system, and it would clear. And then you think, was there a problem? He said, no, there's no problem. It's just the sensor's gone off. And you're like, or you'd be riding along, then all of a sudden it'd be some like a speed sensor or something would go, and you're like, God, not again. It became a point where you just get fed up of the sensors going off. But hopefully it'll all be cured for you as well. But so I like the Pan America. I think I was very unsure about the Harley Davidson Pan America before it came out. I had an early view of it and the design of it and everything. But I've got to say, it grew on me. It grew on me after a while, and I kind of liked it. I kind of liked, the bike. And every time I see one, I kind of look at it. I go, yeah, I like that. I like it. I wouldn't say I love it. That would be wrong of me to say that, but I like it. It's and again, it was fine. It was a perfectly fine bike off road. I thought. The only concern I would have, and I haven't ridden it in a long time now, and I don't know what the latest is. I haven't kept up with updates on it. Is the I forgot what it is. The low ride height setting in the off-road world. You don't want it to jump down in lower itself down automatically. You need to be able to switch that off, because sometimes you need ground clearance to get yourself out of a sticky situation. And I'm not 100. I don't know. So you'll have to tell me, guys, or anybody in the future who's watching this, whether the Pan America has now got a mod or it's got a selectable adjustable ride height, automatic adjustable ride height. Because if it hasn't, then for most people never going off road or never going any tricky stuff, it's not a problem. And it's a kind of a useful thing. But many people who would take it off road would find that, and they have. I've seen videos where guys have taken on, narrow trails and got stuck in ruts and everything, and they were really stuck there. They had to get 3 or 4 guys to lift the bike out of the rut because it would bed. It had bottomed out at the slow speed, or when they come to the stop, and they just couldn't. There we go. There we go. Excellent. You can switch it off in the custom mode. Great. I'm not sure that was possible when it was first come out. I could be wrong, but that's good. But anyway, listen, it's a great bike. Yeah, at least I don't think it lowers until I think you're right. Or is it very slow speed, less than 4 miles an hour? It could be something like that. I actually don't know. I can't really remember whether it's actually at the stop, you stop and then it lowers down, or whether it's 5 miles or less, then it starts lowering down. It would make sense if it was about 5 or less, because then you say, well, if you're just pootling along really slow speed, then you can put your feet down and everything. You'd have a lower center of gravity just to keep it there. I don't know. I'm not sure, but anyway, listen. Well, God, I've been going for an hour and 20. Cracker, that's a long old stint, isn't it? You know, I didn't really mean to go on this long, but anyway, listen. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hearing. If the video quality isn't that great, unfortunately, you know, I've been trying to do these in the evening to catch more people around the world, as it were. But unfortunately, I think the problem is that my internet connection here, even though I'm connected up via cables, Ethernet, it isn't great. The whole area seems to slow down a little bit. It's much better during the day for me. So I may do another live stream during the day next time. We'll see how we go. And you just have to watch it in the later on. But I am developing these live shows a little bit more. I'm working on graphics right now to add in there as well. So hopefully you'll get a much more a better picture and more pictures and more sounds and music and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, let me put a couple of messages before I go. I watched the latest vid from Matt Laidlaw, and one of his colleagues dropped the Pan Am, and when picking it up, the plastic hand at the back broke. Oh dear, that's no good, is it? Michael, good vibes. Thank you. Good, thank you. Do you have fiber? It is, and it's all fiber broadband here. But again, even though it's for some reason this is stated in the evening, it does go. There we go. Those are the 2021s. They've already put a recall out for those handles. Yeah, I think a lot of people talked about those. So I haven't seen this video, guys, so I can't say. He didn't drop it. He went to yank up on it to put it on the center stand. I see. That's what it was. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, these things. I think I'm not 100% sure, Panamad, but I think you can buy reinforced handles now for those, or they were certainly looking at that, or metal handles. I think they got custom metal handles that you can get now. I'm not 100% sure on that, but hey, listen. I'm sure if somebody hasn't made them, I'm sure they will be making them. Some aluminium handles, I'm sure they'll be making them, you know, in the fullness of time, I'm sure. Anyway, listen, but anyway, listen, I'm gonna love you and leave you. Thanks for watching. As I say, there will be more live shows coming. Sorry about the video quality, but it is just an internet thing. I can't do anything about it. I've pretty much done everything I can, but it's just an internet thing. But anyway, you know, hopefully the audio was coming through. So, you know, this is a little tip for you. Anybody who's watching this, if you're listening to it, you're trying to watch this on your phone and you're using data like a 4G, 5G instead of you're on a Wi-Fi, just put on your phone, but then switch the button off so the screen goes blank, but you can still hear the audio. That, I think that is true, is that it reduces the amount of data that you use. So if you're worried about your data use, just switch off the screen, or, you know, blank it off, but you can still see the audio or hear the audio. Anyway, guys, really appreciate you joining. Thanks for all watching. You know, like, share, subscribe, go to the YouTube channel, watch all the other videos, go to the website revelatoralf.com, and all I can say is, well, it's been emotional. And it's time for this. Good night.